I'm going to move some things around this evening. D, the discussion on budget priorities is going to go first. Just so anybody that lives outside of the city can leave after this because the weather's deteriorating. So we will start with Ed Bradford.
Can we do public comment first, though?
Well, I forgot that.
That's
I guess.
okay.
Is there any public comment? Mr. Fetter.
Hi folks, happy to be here this evening. My name is Mark Fetter. I live at 251 10th Street, and I'm the Executive Director of the Manistee County Historical Museum. Excuse me, one of the items we have on today's study session agenda is the discussion on the Sawbo Points Lightkeepers or Lighthouse Keepers Association managing the Manistee North Pierhead Lighthouse. And I just wanted to say a few words about that. The lighthouse was deemed surplus property by the U.S. Coast Guard in 2008, and in 2010, the ownership of the North Pierhead Light was transferred to the City of Manistee. City of Manistee, along with the Manistee County Historical Museum, we're dedicated to the preservation and rehabilitation and public interpretation of the Manistee North Pierhead Lighthouse. This was a project that was kind of spearheaded by Steve Harold, who was the previous museum director. He had a love for lighthouses and maritime history. And at that point in time, Steve and the museum board of directors decided to sign a concession agreement with the city, meaning that the city would own the lighthouse, but that the museum would kind of do the fundraising to try to get it fixed up and repaired, and we would essentially maintain it. In 2016, we were successful in painting the exterior of the lighthouse. I don't know if anybody remembers what it looked like for many, many years. It was kind of a big rust bucket, and Steve was very integral. The museum was integral in getting that painted and fixed up the way it looks today, so people can go out there and enjoy it and take their pictures and all the other good stuff. But I hate to use COVID as an excuse because everybody does, but I think that the momentum that we had to continue on with fixing up the lighthouse, we had hoped to get the interior fixed up so the public could go inside and do all that stuff. That momentum kind of ended. A couple reasons. One, COVID, of course, but Steve Harold, who was the lighthouse coordinator and continued on for a couple years after 2016. By 2018, he had kind of retired from the museum for the second time and kind of decided to step away. And that kind of left me, I'm only one person at the museum, staff of one, that kind of left me pulled and continues to be pulled in about 25 different directions, one of them being the lighthouse. So at the museum board was kind of beginning the stages of trying to figure out where we remained in the overall picture of the lighthouse, what was going to happen to that, and trying to kind of start to have conversations about that. Well, lo and behold, summer of 2022, I got a call from the former president of SPLCA who wanted to discuss briefly the museum's involvement with the lighthouse, and that kind of got the conversation going with members from the Sawbo Point Lighthouse Keepers Association to kind of in a greater conversation to see if they might be interested in taking over management of the lighthouse. They're an organization, and Mr. Greavy will talk about that a little further at length tonight. But they're an organization that's been around since 1987. They have staff. They have the contacts and know-how to get the lighthouse kind of fixed up and hopefully open to the public, and also the reach to bring people into the city who are big lighthouse aficionados and big maritime aficionados. These people, of course, would visit the city, probably spend money at the hotels and or restaurants and or shops. So they have that reach, and simply we at the museum do not have that reach. And so that's just a little background on the history behind what Mr. Greavy is going to be talking about tonight. And if anybody has any other questions or any other comments, I am more than happy to attempt to answer those. So
Thank you.
thank you so much.
Yes. Okay, Mr. Bradford.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Heather's got up on the screen the draft 25 budget calendar. It's very similar to what we've done in the past, and I think Bill had sent that out in an email or an update. So that's kind of the way we've laid the process out. January is kind of getting ready for the budget, getting some council input, doing some presentations to council. February is really where the staff kind of starts getting their stuff together and getting it to me. I compile it. In mid-March, we go through it as a team to kind of look it over, finalize it, then put the document together, and then April is really where council gets to review the budget. So it's very similar as it's been in past years, but it's more for informational purposes. Tonight on the agenda is to discuss council budget priorities. I know Bill has a few comments about stuff, and I've got a few comments about some of the conditions, economic conditions what we might be looking at, but I'll let Bill get us started off on that, and then I'll probably come back up.
Yep. Thanks, Ed. And so I know we have 2 council members missing tonight, so I think I'll send out the budget calendar, this document as well. Ed's going to go over some past priorities that we've had that we implemented, and I just wanted to discuss a little bit. This year we have some initiatives coming up. I think the DDA streetscape, that's the playbooks coming together, that's in draft form right now. We're going to discuss the lighthouse tonight. Jack Grevious here, thank you, and there's some financial implications with that. I know we've discussed the waterworks building. That's still something that we're excited about, what that's going to be, how that's going to look, what the future plans are for that. We're now, it seems, taking on more events too, so that's going to have a budget implication. Who's going to manage that in terms of staffing? Jeff and I had a meeting with Eagle today. So there's Public Act 80 that came out regarding Solid Waste Act, which is going to require that the county provide a plan and implement a plan, and there's an expectation that there's going to be curbside recycling. And so probably 3 to 5 years we're going to have to do that. That's going to be a state mandate. So just something to think about when we're going through budget. Some things are imposed on us from the state. Sometimes, like we have the PFAS we're still dealing with. Right now we're still in the phase where we're looking at the nature and extent of the contamination. So there's going to be remediation at some point that we're going to have to deal with. So I'd like to invite Ed up to just kind of go through the past items, kind of go through that list, and then kind of talk about next steps, what we'll do.
So before I go into this, I want to talk a little bit about some of the high-level things that I'm looking at for this year's budget, just to kind of give council a feel. So on the revenue side, property tax revenue growth is going to continue to be strong this year, the 5% inflationary rate. However, it's likely we'll have a headly rollback because the real inflation rate was right at 5% instead of being at 9% like it was last year. So that could tend to roll back some of those increases. Our revenue sharing is probably projected to go up, but there's a lot of uncertainty because of the economic conditions and what sales tax collections are going to be in the next year. So we've had some nice increases in revenue sharing over the last 4 to 5 years, but I'm not sure that those are necessarily going to continue. And then our water and sewer revenues, those are on track with the recommended rate study increases. On the expense side, our inflationary pressures are continuing, even though the published rate appears to be quote unquote moderating. But as everybody knows, cost for everything is still up. It hasn't come down. It's not going to go down. Inflation gets baked in. We know prices for equipment vehicles are going to go up dramatically. The price for police cruisers, I think the chief said they're going to go up $10,000 to $13,000. So there's tremendous inflationary issues specific to cities that and communities that are providing public services that we're going to be experiencing. We're going to need to sustain our prior employee headcount buildup. We've added quite a few staff members by bringing stuff back in-house, and we got to make sure we're able to continue to support those moving forward. There may be some new personnel requests in the upcoming budget potentially. Facility assistant, maybe a part-time code official. We'll see where that shakes out. The 2 police contracts are going to be up for negotiation. They'll start here probably in mid part of winter. We want to make sure we've got wage COLA equity amongst the different groups, and we need to gauge the effects of bringing the planning and zoning and building in-house, see how the revenues are coming in for that and how that's all working out. And then, obviously we have ongoing maintenance. There's some bigger projects for maintenance, like tuck pointing City Hall, that may need to happen at some point, maybe not in this next budget, but just down the road. For capital items, the transportation improvement plan is going to be discussed next week. We have our capital improvement fund scheduled out with projects for the next few years. There is some flexibility in there, but not a ton, depending on what projects get moved around. And Bill and I have talked a lot about, and the department heads in general, about the staff kind of being at capacity for a lot of the things. We've been taking on a lot of initiatives with the CHILL grant, the EDA grant, a lot of construction projects, potential NEZ. There's been a lot of economic development interest. Those things kind of come in what I call a bubble, so it's been quiet for a while. I mean, Hampton Inn is done, but there's 3 or 4 other ones, and once those break loose, there's a ton of staff time with the different tax abatements and the zoning and planning process. So it feels like those are just out there. So there is a little bit of a capacity issue among staff, so writing additional grants may be challenging. And then on the debt side, we're pretty good there, but at some point, we're going to probably want to explore maybe doing or exploring a voted bond issue to do streets, if that's still a council priority, or possibly a voted bond issue like we've done in the past to replace some of the fire apparatuses, which the chief will talk about a little bit more. There was talk about maybe a Headley override at some point for streets. There's a lot of planning that has to happen. Not saying that would be in this budget, but it's something that has been brought up before. And then depending on state mandates for water, we had hoped we could get by without having to issue any more debt for the water use side, but those seem to be moving targets, and if we have to do more with lead or do it faster, there's a possibility that you need to do some debt for that at some point. So that's just kind of some of the higher level issues. The chart that's up on your screen in front of you basically is called from the last few budgets, and it's taken from specific council priorities as well as the issue pages. And I think what this shows by and large is we've been able to fund most of the priorities that have gone on. So for instance, in fiscal year 24, there was a desire by council to add another full-time parks employee. That happened. We put a plan in place for the ARPA funds. There's a draft plan in place for the fire department ladder truck and pumper, although I think Chief Herndon has some different ideas on that. So that one has been out there for a few years. It's not critical yet, but it's something that we definitely need to get our arms around and figure out what the real plan is going to be moving forward. We funded an 8th firefighter position last year, brought the planning and zoning and building inspection back in-house. That's been going pretty well, but we're only 3 months in, really. We're going to continue to have to fund the PFAS explorations at the landfill through the refuse fund. Those drilling is going on as we speak to kind of continue to delineate the extent of the contamination. I think the place we've really done well is to improve and enhance the Riverwalk. We've redone a lot of sections. We redid the whole west end with the bond issue. I think it's beautiful. It won an award. We've got the EDA grant for stuff within the DDA. We got the Natural Resources Trust Fund grant for the North Riverwalk. We've got the contribution for West Shore Community College at the Plaza. So, I mean, the Riverwalk, which has been a priority, has really, I think, gotten a lot of attention and is going to look nice when all those projects get done. Blight enforcement has been a big priority. Over the past couple of years, the NRBC has been formed. We've budgeted money to demo houses. The police have stepped up that enforcement as a priority. We're implementing some new software. It's actually software we had in-house, but maybe using it in a little bit different way to help with tracking blight. So I think that's an ongoing item. Again, we had a plan to replace the ladder truck, so the chief will talk about that. Money for blighted structures. Morton Park was a priority. We slotted money for that. That project is getting close to being done. 1 year the council had a priority to meet the needs of departments. I think that's just kind of an ongoing one, but we were able to pretty much do that and have been able to do that for the most part. Implemented car allowances for the fire chief and police chief. Street improvement plan is updated every year, and a few other items on there. A couple years back we funded the 13th police officer position, although hiring has been a challenge. Chief Glass and the city manager have put plan in place by doing the trained recruits, so that's coming along well. And I think a really big one is the wet weather corrective action plan at the wastewater treatment plant. That's been a council goal for decades, and it's finally online. We're not dumping effluent into Manistee Lake anymore. That's a huge win for the community and for the state, and I think that's to be commended by everybody who's had a hand in that over the
Thanks, Ed. So I know I did plan to have Chief Herndon talk a little bit about the fire truck apparatus, also the station. I think with Councilman Bachman out, I think we can discuss that with the TIP and the capital improvement plan next meeting. So what, I think last year we did more of a group goal setting where we kind of all saw what everyone else was looking at. We kind of put we had, coins, or we had like 5, 10 cents, 15 cents. This year I'd like to do similar to what we're doing with the wish list, where individually council members maybe have their top 3 budget priorities. And I'm thinking if we could, I'll send this out to the 2 members that aren't here, but we could have those back by February 6th. Then I can kind of work with the department heads on that, and that would be helpful. So if anyone has any thoughts on that, or.
I have a question. So I know it was mentioned about a lot of time with grants, which grants are very time consuming. I totally get that. And staff resources are limited. Has there ever been any thought or exploration into looking at potentially hiring a grant writer to take over some of that responsibility? I mean, typically most organizations, if you're applying for a lot of grants, will try to reach out to a grant writer because of the staff capacity issue.
And there has been discussion about that. It is, yeah, I mean, do we go under contract? Do we hire someone? We've been fortunate to have kind of the in-house having some expertise between department heads, myself, Spicer, so we haven't needed to. I think right now it's more, we've received quite a few grants. It's the implementation, which is the bigger staff commitment, but I think that's always a possibility. I think right now though, we've received about 4 in the last month and a half, so we just want to do those well so that as an organization we still receive those in the future. So that's kind of the priority now, but that's definitely something we can look at when it's needed.
Okay,
Any other
anybody
comments or?
else?
Thank you.
Okay, anybody that needs to go can go, that's fine.
Thanks, Ed.
We will move to Chief Herndon on the core values review.
Well, thank you all. Just to recap, the last assignment that we did in this project was, we called it the Wish Principles assignment. And what happened was everybody gave in like 3 wishes that desires and aspirations of what the city wanted to be or what we wanted to accomplish within the city. And then underneath each of those wishes, you came up with 2 obstacles that you feel were preventing these from becoming. So there was a lot of really great ideas on these wishes and these aspirations for the city, and so I'm really excited to be a part of all of this, and I think there's a lot of great ideas out there. But what I was really wanted to get is I wanted to look at obstacles, and I wanted to create a list of obstacles and common things that we are finding that are obstructing things from happening. So that's what I did. And what I did is I looked at all these obstacles and I tried to find some common obstacles so we can come up with some strategies to eliminate them or reduce them so we can see the growth that everybody desires. And some of these common obstacles that I found was there was communication issues. All right, there were some building issues and concerns, people concerned with, say, like blight and those types of issues. Those came up frequently. And there was also what I called, so I created like a tourism/recreation type issues, parks, tourism, and how those different types of things, like maybe some downtown and business development and all those things. So what I did is I think that we can reduce some of these issues by finding and rediscovering new ways that we can communicate on these common issues and concerns. So we can better communicate how to access information from our city websites with some of the different meeting minutes and agendas and different things that we have going on. So we can discover some of the new information that I know we put information into Dropbox and that so people can absorb and get information that can help eliminate some of those issues. And some of the weekly emails that we receive from each other and correspondence that we can do better. So really when it comes to these different types of communication issues and barriers that we have, I think we can use some of the technology that we have existing and in place and better educate everybody how to access information. Because as we have all these different technologies and different avenues of information floating around, it's easy to get little bits and pieces in that. But if everybody knows how to discover and to find all these different, to get as much information possible, it can help eliminate some of these communication things that we have. And so I look forward to working with the city staff and thinking of new ways that we can communicate how to get all this information out there. All right, so then as far as like what I call like the building issues and blight, you know, blight's like a really big topic that we have going on. Some of the things that I found that we have in place, so we have our new community development department and the $500,000 grant that was just coming. So that was coming. So a lot of these issues that keep coming up with that is, ooh, we have that coming, $500,000 coming. We have a department that's focusing on the development. We also have the new building department that can help with the different types of inspections and keeping those and keeping that, and tools like the see, click, fix and that. So when I looked at that, I'm like, ooh, I see like help is on the way, but it's just kind of the infancy and really communicating that we have these different tools and how do we get the people that are concerned about these things connected with the right amount of people. And I think the newness of it might be hampering some of that ability, but as we get more versed and we can point people in the right direction in that, I think we can overcome some of that and see some of that come forward. Then also when I moved on up to the third one, so what I call like the tourism and recreation type things that we have going on. You know, the county, the new tourism authority director, and that and of all the exciting things that she has coming there to help communicate what the idea is and how the tourism helps our community, and just smooth over some of those issues and that how we communicate some of that. And then there was also the beach master plan and its works, and there was a lot of desire for how the beaches and how we can use that to really benefit our community and really expand on everything we do. So that was an exciting thing. So I see things that are coming in that on the horizon. It's just I think sometimes the time that it takes for it to come and then to communicate it to everybody, then to get it around, there could be some of those issues. So really when it come on down to it, I was pleased to see that many of these obstacles do have some existing avenues that we can overcome. And I think if we just keep on working on these communication issues and bringing it out there, that we can get everybody on the same page. So once again, I thank you all for doing that, pointing out some of these obstacles, and I do plan on continuing to communicate them to help break down these barriers so we can just continue to thrive and get better. So thank you all for your time for doing that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Okay, Mr. Jack Greavy will give have discussion on the Sable Point Lighthouse Keepers Association.
I do have some additional copies of this if anybody needs that up here or in the room as well. Does anybody would like a copy of presentation today? Yes, my name is Jack Creevy. I'm the Executive Director at Sable Point Lighthouse Keepers Association. I did make a brief packet for you. I don't know how much time I have to go discuss all of this.
Yeah, 15 minutes, yep.
Okay, perfect. First of all, I'm new to the area myself. Just moved into Manistee about a year ago with my wife and son. We have a 2-year-old back at home. But I spent a lot of time here in Manistee. My grandmother lived on 5th Avenue for over 70 years. And I did visit her quite frequently growing up, spending a lot of time on the water with my family. We had a sailboat out of Muskegon, and we used it as a floating RV going up and down the lakeshore. So, brief history on me, but more about lighthouses now. First of all, the mission of the Sable Point Lighthouse Keepers Association is to preserve, promote, educate the public, and make our lighthouses accessible to all. What is SPLCA? Sable Point Lighthouse Keepers Association often goes by SPLCA. So what is this organization? We're a group of over 400 members. We cover over 22 states nationwide. We are a national organization because of this. Out of those 400 members, 200 members are active participants either by our Lighthouse program, through our resident keeping program, which we'll get to, either being a board member or active volunteer with our special events. Board members consist of, we actually just had an expansion of our board this last year from 7 to 11. We currently have one open board seat that we would encourage somebody from Manistee to be on our board as well. SPLCA staff, we do have 5 full-time employees and then 2 part-time employees as well, often hiring at least 2 seasonal staff. We are located in Ludington, right on East Ludington Avenue, or US 10 there, right near downtown Ludington space. It's really in the middle of our territory. How do we preserve? We do that in a national standard. We are in contact pretty consistently with the State Historic Preservation Office, as well as National Park Services, local stakeholders as well, to make sure things are done in a timely manner. Stakeholders consist of, as of right now, City of Ludington, Fruitland Township, Ludington State Park, as well as Silver Lake State Park. So let's get into our program a little bit, and what does it mean to be a keeper? Keeper program is a lot of dedicated volunteers. Their duties consist of operating the lighthouse in the day-to-day, operating the gift shop, general cleaning, safety guidelines for our guests and our volunteers as well, and always being that friendly smile when you come in the door. We want to make sure that hospitality is our first order of operation. Pretty extensive training goes into that. We have both remote training and in-person training throughout a given season. They are taught about our procedures, what to do when you're closing down a gift shop or opening that gift shop, what to do in case of emergencies. First aid, AEDs are all located at our facilities, just in case something goes wrong. At the end of a pier head, you could be the first form of support there. Or out at Big Sabo, for instance, being at 1.8 miles out from Ludington State Park. Emergency services to get out there, not very quick, so we have to sometimes act to be first responders in that direction. So what is a daykeeper? A daykeeper is an individual that comes into our lighthouses, runs that facility for sometimes a week, sometimes 2. Big Sabo Point Lighthouse typically is a 2-week commitment. Other locations are typically a 1-week commitment. They stay with us on one of our designated lodging sites. Either for Big Sabo's case, it's at the residence keeper quarter itself. For Ludington North Breakwater, it's I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit right now, but we have sites for all of our keepers to stay with us. That means we have a bigger reach. We can reach those 22 different states that we have right now. They actually come to us, volunteer with us, stay with us, and then leave. It's considered a working vacation. Resident keepers are an individual that gives a relief date or relief day for that resident. Day keepers give a relief date to a resident keeper. So they come in for 1 day out of that week period, and then allowing those resident keepers to go explore, spend money at gift shops, go downtown areas, restaurants, and things like that, and experience West Michigan communities. Other opportunities, special event volunteers, bus days, we have concerts at our lighthouses, yoga sessions, things like that, and of course, office volunteers, people that help us distribute bulk mailing items. I see some photos there of volunteering at our lighthouses as well. So 4 lighthouses that we currently operate, White River Light Station, located in Whitehall, Michigan, just on the channel there on the south side. Silver Lake State Park, we have Little Sabo Point Lighthouse, as well as Ludington North Breakwater Lighthouse and the Pier Head, North Breakwater Pier Head in Ludington. And then in Ludington State Park, of course, Big Sabo Point Lighthouse. We have operated these. The most recent one that we've acquired was the White River Light Station back in 2012. That site has historically been a live-on-site position for a curator that we hire. That is going to be changing here pretty soon. I'm currently working with Fruitland Township to get that into a site very similar to our other 3, which we have resident keepers staying on site. That location will be a 2-person location where they'll be living at the keeper's quarters rather, and then maintaining that light for a week period at a time, utilizing those day keepers for one day off. Similar thing at Little Sabo Point Lighthouse. We actually utilize the Ranger House station that's just down the road from Little Sabo Point Lighthouse. Operational hours for all of our lighthouses are Tuesday through Sunday from 10 until 5. As far as the months of operation, that does vary. We can obviously run a little bit longer in the season if we're not a pier head light, if we're kind of considering those obstacles. Going on to Ludington Breakwater, again, just a little bit shortened season, closing in September. But we are utilizing the Ludington State Park Ranger Station House. So it's going to be a common thing here. We're going to be talking about the housing a little bit. And at Big Solid Point Lighthouse, of course, the sleeper quarters there. On average, we get about 10,000 guests at each lighthouse. There's a big variation between how many guests come to each. At White River, we have just under 4,000. I believe our 4-year average is about 4,400 per year. Then estimating at Little Sabo Point Lighthouse, this last year we had, 16,709. Those are paid guests going up our towers. Going on to page 6 now, how are we funded? Kind of a brief overview there. Our two major funding sources are program services and gift shop. We do charge a fee to climb a tower. There is a $8 charge for an adult or a $5 charge for a student that is 17 years or younger. If you are 17 years or younger, you have to go up with an adult, somebody that is 18 years or older. Certain other requirements include you have to have a heel strap for your shoes. You can't go up in flip-flops. We'd rather have you go up barefoot than in flip-flops. Also, you have to be 40 inches or high or tall to climb, so you can't be, of course, too young where you can't scale up a tower, climb a ladder, and things like that. In total, for program services, $287,766. Once again, that's for all 4 lighthouses. Gift shop is our second biggest promoter for revenue at the location, at all 4 locations. We do have gift shops at all 4 sites. These are tailored to that site. You will not see Big Sabo Point Lighthouse merchandise at Little Sabo Point. We don't do that. We tailor that to that site and make sure everything is corresponding with that. You'll see maybe in the previous pages those stamps that were located. These are something that are pretty sought after. There's passports, booklets that are sold in our gift shop that people go around to all 129 lighthouses in the state of Michigan and get a stamp wherever they can. So we typically give out that stamp at the gift shop space, and those can be found there. So once again, we have a standard, all 4 lighthouses have a very similar stamp. They're created by our same volunteer, actually created those. He's a very good sketch artist. So he designed those for us and certainly would for Manistee as well. Going back to page 6, sorry for jumping around there. We also do go after grants as an organization. We're currently working with SHPO office on a $40,000 grant for the HSR's, a historical structure report, which has been done at Manistee Lighthouse as well. We're currently in the process of doing that. It's going to be a reimbursement to us once it's complete in another month or so. Historically, we've had several $40,000 grants that we've had through the SHPO office to do restoration items or to do HSRs at our locations. We actually had a strategic plan meeting this morning. We're going to be completing those in the next 5 years at all of our locations, those HSR reports. More on Manistee Lighthouse in particular. I'm here to talk about us opening up this operation. What is it going to cost us to do that? Roughly, we're about $150,000 to open up Manistee Lighthouse. Why the amount? The interior, a lot of flaking in that lead paint that's out there. If I'm not mistaken, there's a big trout fish hatchery nearby, and of course, we don't want to contaminate any waters more than we have to, so that proper procedures have to be done in order to maintain the waterway. We will be working with SHPO office approved organizations to make sure that's done the right way. Additional items include some repairs or some modifications to the stairs itself. When I went in there this last spring, and it was a little awkward going up. Of course, you don't want to make that awkward step going up a ladder system. This is a 5-tier structure with ladders on each floor. So we want to make sure that's safe, adding grips to each floor, making sure that it is easier for a guest to climb. Not every person that comes in the lighthouse is, jumping to climb a tower. Some people are, a little scared of heights and they decide not to. That's fine. Just being in the tower itself is a big component. Additional expenditures, I have $10,000 here for narrative, including cabinets and retail shelving as well. It's not a very large lighthouse, right? But there is a lot of interior repairs to be accomplished at this time. One thing I do not have listed here, which I had on an original version, but unfortunately got deleted, was solar panels. We will need solar panels on site. We currently are running 6 4x2 solar panels at Ludington North Breakwater Lighthouse. This is to give interior lighting on every floor with LED lights, once again to make sure that people can see where they're stepping, making sure they can see every foothold and every spot going up that ladder system. Another big component is our residents, our keeper residents. This is what makes SPLCA work. This is why we're a solvent organization, is because we're able to offer residents lodging for a very inexpensive cost for SPLCA. We don't actually have any expenditures for rent or any applications for that. We have to maintain the site that we stay at, but as far as producing a monthly fee, we don't have that throughout our organization at this time. So that is a big component. If we're able to work out something with the city of Manistee, they're certainly willing to come up here, but that's the biggest kind of issue that I see so far, is that we can't afford a $300,000 or $200,000 house, you know. So that is a big component. What we're looking at is at least at minimum of a 2-bedroom, full bath, full kitchen, living room / dining room, and location for back storage for our gift shop. Additional items, signage. We would want to put some signage down by 5th Avenue. I can see that on that last page there. I've indicated some locations. I also have indication of a single parking spot designated for keepers closer to the Coast Guard station there, just to the west of. That is pretty ideal for us. We do have that capability, or that designated parking spot in Ludington. That is to allow our keepers a little bit closer access to unload, to get merchandise out to the site. Of course, kind of come and go as if they need to during shifts. Timeline here, this is a pretty aggressive timeline. This is a timeline that starts off with a lease agreement signature between the City of Manistee and SPLCA in June of 2024. We will then begin our grant writing and reaching out to our donor base for that $150,000. There is some earmarked funds from the Historical Society here in Manistee that have to go out to that lighthouse. That will be used for the lighthouse with this projected plan. The rest of this is wrapping up about September of 2025, complete restoration with either a fall 25 opening or a spring 26 opening. We'd love to have a grand opening ceremony for that, and of course 2027 we have our big anniversary year at this location. Is a 100-year anniversary in 2027. So being open at least for 2026 and figuring out any type of issues we might have with the operational season, get those hiccups done before an anniversary year. Actually 2024, this year we have 2 anniversaries. Ludington North Breakwater is turning 100 and Little Sabo is turning 150. Projected revenue at that site, you can see that below. Currently projecting revenue $64,500 annually. If you were to try to hire staff at that cost, this wouldn't be a workable situation. You need to run this site off of volunteers, and we kind of have the know-how and the capability of doing that so far. Additional item I didn't put down here, a potential revenue stream. There is area to turn around a bus in Manistee. We get calls constantly about where can we take a bus group to one of your lighthouses, and we have a very difficult time trying to figure out a location for that right now. Manistee would be the prime location to be bringing in these bus tours in and kind of elevating that guest level. Right now I'm estimating about 5,000 guests annually. Where I'm getting these numbers from are from the last 2 pages, figure 1 and figure 2. This is the breakdown from last year at Ludington North Breakwater, as well as figure 2 there. Figure 1 is Breakwater, figure 2 is White River Light Station. These are the most similar sites that we have that we're currently operating from. So we're kind of splitting the difference between those two. Ludington Breakwater, City of Ludington had their 100th anniversary this last year, and it brought in a lot of revenue into Ludington. Can kind of guess that's a reasoning for the increase last year, but we're showing about a $14,000 increase last year from our 4-year average. So I do have some additional items I can leave with you if you would like. We have the Volunteer Keeper Handbook. This goes over for our volunteers kind of the rules of each site in detail, as well as where things are in that location. I also brought with me some historical brochures. These are available at all 4 of our lighthouses. Kind of a cheap takeaway for guests. This is actually a free item that they can take with them, some historical narrative that they can bring back. Certainly able to answer any questions. I don't mean to talk too long.
No, great. This is very exciting. I do have a couple of questions.
Yeah.
As much as I love solar as a means for energy, I can't for the life of me think where you'd put 6 of these solar panels and not mess up the look of our,
If I can interrupt, you could probably lay them right along the catwalk and they wouldn't be noticeable, you know, if you laid them flat horizontally.
So that's my
better.
that's my projection as well, is that the catwalk would be utilized for those units to be on. They can either be vertical. We have several out with breakwater. Some of them are located up, and some other ones are sideways. Being sideways is probably the optimal location for that, and be lined up out there like that. We do have a backup battery that's located at that site, and we'd be utilizing a backup battery system for the Manistee light as well.
Then my other question, you talked about these volunteers, resident volunteers and whatever else. Are those something that you provide, or is that something from wherever your other locations are, or how does that work?
So resident keepers would be something that we provide. Day keepers, we're looking more for the individuals that live less than an hour away from that site. So that's something that we'll be utilizing people from the Manistee area and Manistee County rather, to provide those day keeping opportunities. So there will be volunteer opportunities with us, as well as resident keeping opportunities, and those, as I said, 22 states that we pull from for that. So our keepers are definitely looking at this is once again my first year in the area, but getting a good gauge of our volunteers this past season. They want something new, they want something exciting. Certainly Manistee has that charm to it, downtown space, that I know that they'll really enjoy. Being as close as possible for that residence to the downtown space. Thought about a second level maybe to one of the buildings downtown. Could be a possibility. They would love that. They have to do stairs anyway, so stairs aren't really an issue. But certainly being closer to the downtown space would be better than anything.
That's great. And then my last question, so you're envisioning that somewhere on that main floor, you're gonna have a gift shop?
It's a small gift shop, right? Yeah. So it's not. That's why I'm not estimating that we're going to have $100,000 worth of revenue per year. Most of our revenue is going to come from those tower climb tickets that we sell. Small gift shop, a small desk with a tablet on it. You can pull internet reception from that site. When I was out there this last spring, I made sure to check my phone to make sure you had cell reception out there, so we can run our Squarespace POS system off a tablet and be able to operate that from that location. Once again, not a ton of inventory. That's why we need to have a parking spot close by, because our keepers are going to be bringing in new merchandise every day.
Right,
Yeah.
not much room.
It is noted in there as well that we do sell consumables at our locations. Pure headlights are not locations for cold beverages, so we would not have consumables at this site. We're kind of ixnaying that right off the bat. We want to conserve power. We are working off solar that needs to be operated with essentially powering our POS system or LED lighting interior.
Well, yeah, and we have a concession stand right by there.
Right.
And then the last question I have is, you said that there is something with the stairs going up that, we're not doing anything to the integrity of the building or anything, just making it safer? Or?
Everything would be passed by SHPO office, whatever we do with this project. The idea is making it safer. There's the gaps. I didn't take an actual measurement of the gaps of those stairs. It felt awkward going up. The incline of that, just the pitch was just a little off, and the gaps were just a little bit too wide. So adding the increased handholds going up, we would have to add that. We have added those to all of our have added those to Leadington North Breakwater. All the rest of our lighthouses are the spiral staircase going up. So that has been approved by SHPO office in the past. We do add little rope dangles, I would call them, just in case somebody does hit their head on the steel. It's a sudden stop, so we want to make sure that they feel something before hitting that sudden stop.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do we have spiral steps going up, or are they straight ladders?
There's ladders going up. It's 5 tiers altogether. and they are separated by ever so slightly on each floor. So you have the most floor space that you have, of course, is going to be in the base level because you only have one staircase and it is the widest location there. One thing that is unique about this lighthouse versus Ludington North Breakwater is that the interior does not have concrete in it. It is a metal interior. A few different things for us being restoration. We would take on the responsibility of restoring that lighthouse moving forward. But it makes it a little bit easier on us being direct steel there. We don't have to work with that barrier. Additionally, with the gift shop and working with limited space, we can utilize magnets with hooks on them to put items up on the interior walls, keeping things really close to that wall instead of popping so far out. So we would definitely, space management and traffic flow management is going to be a key portion of it.
Did I?
Your solar panels, how big are your panels?
4 by 2, 4 foot by 2 foot.
Sorry, I was just gonna ask, no, I forgot what I was gonna ask. It'll come back to me, somebody else.
Anybody else? No, back to you.
What was I gonna ask you? I can't remember. I don't know. It'll come. Oh, no, I remember what it was. When you were doing the slideshow there was a point there that said something about there'd be a $15,000
Thank you.
a year.
Yep, so that is, could definitely go back to that. I was talking with Bill a little bit. He was saying between 10 and 15. I know what I'm paying for rent right now locally, so I know that 10 won't necessarily cover that. I'm hoping that 15 would, as long as we can work out a deal with maybe the landlord or like, around thereof. To get that price lower. It was suggested by one of our board members that, we're only renting it half the year, but I'm saying, yeah, that's the revenue year though. So, only renting it for 6-7 months isn't gonna cut it. You have to rent it for the full time frame. It's something that we currently don't have that expenditure of. If we are renting, we wouldn't have maintenance on that site necessarily. So it's a little bit different of a arrangement than we have at other sites. At our other sites, like I said before, there's no cost agreements, so we maintain everything on that site. If the hot water heater goes out, it's Splica's responsibility. I'm assuming that in Manistee, that would be reversed. We would have a landlord that we would get a hold of for that. So removing some more expenditure line from Splica as well. That's where that 15,000 comes into play.
Yeah, a lot of these other lighthouses, they actually have a house on the site or attached to the lighthouse. Unfortunately, we don't have that here, so talking with how could this work, my thought is if it was more of a contract and there was a monetary contribution that would go towards housing, that might be something we could do. So I think I'd like to thank Mark Federer for introducing us to Jack, and I think if we're going to do something during this 100-year, 2027 is when that lighthouse turns, I think they're the partner to work with to make it happen. So
Yeah, sounds like some exciting things.
And of course we can, I'm not sure how the city budget is looking. I guess of course we were talking about that a little bit ago. If you're looking for a quicker timeline, of course we're on board with that too, but we would need some one-time assistant help to make that happen. We do have the connections, we do have the volunteer base. Essentially just we need to get over that finish line. So yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you all.
thank you. And the next discussion topic was other. We were going to have the Old Kirk Museum representatives talk about a proposed CHIPO grant partnership.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll keep that.
Mayor Sullivan, hello. Council members, hello. My name's Howard Schaefer. I'm a resident of Onekama Township. I'm a volunteer. Do you need other identifying information from me?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I'm retired from working for 4 different governors in Michigan, and I thought in my golden years I would use some of my time to donate to Manistee. So I am volunteering for not-for-profits. I heard this evening about the grant writing, and that was one of the things I did over the years, and I'm donating that to Old Kirk. The picture, I don't have a PowerPoint for you, so you're gonna have to look at that while I speak. I'm gonna keep this to about 10 minutes or less. So that is what we used to call the Danish Lutheran Church. It's on 304 Walnut Street. It became It was actually deconsecrated, if that's the right word, in 1972. It's been maintained by Manistee citizens as volunteers for all those decades. It is now a not-for-profit organization. We do business as Old Kirk Museum. So it's a museum in an old church structure. The church is on the National Register of Historic Properties. It was built in 1868, which is actually, I think, a year before Manistee was chartered. So it's one of our oldest. It survived the fire. It's one of our oldest buildings. It's a beauty. I'll just go quick. It's a beauty inside, lots of wood, beautiful altar, just very interesting. A votive ship from the Scandinavian era and its heritage. Really cool building. So we have, with a board of directors, Ken Cooper is here with me this evening. He's our president. And a bunch of committed volunteers. They're really into this place. So that's cool. We are donation-based. We have always been donation-based. I am saying we because I'm speaking for them. I've just joined forces in the last year or something. But the donation-based income was their value. And then our tax filing status has always been submitting 990Ns every year, showing an income of less than $25,000. So we're only, whatever people gave us is what we lived on. We now are coming into a new era because our roof is failing, and we need a new roof. That's the bottom line, and we need a new steeple. There's some complications with that. So we have to go farther than just continuing business as we did. We're more than just the building, but that's part of what I think makes us special because it's such a unique property. In worrying about where we would get the money, we thought we're going to need to start asking foundations for money and any other grant makers. And we looked into, you've heard the word SHPO a lot tonight, we looked into what SHPO is offering this year, and so I'm going to present that in a moment. And we hope to ask you to sponsor our project, and I'll tell you the parameters of that. I think you'll find it's not, I hope you'll find it's not too burdensome. First, let me just quickly pump what our programs are. We're doing this as I think at least 5 decades of volunteers have done. We're doing this to preserve the building as an asset for Manistee. We are emphasizing all kinds of cultural programs year-round. I'm going to pass out, if you would, may I come up and give this to you? Just, if you would just pass this down and look at it in case I'm boring, then you'll have something to look at. I'll moving along here. So these are some of our programs that you're looking at. I'll highlight them. We're emphasizing cultural tourism. We're emphasizing year-round activities and things to offer. Events for children. You'll see some, we have done some things with third graders coming, learning about the lumber industry and Manistee's history. We have partnered with the other museums in the area, so we're kind of on a network there. We do annual holiday programs. We do tours of 7 historic buildings in Manistee, including the firehouse. That gentleman was here this evening. County Museum Alliance I mentioned. So summer talks and tours. We partner with the Ramsdell, so we have things to do for the tourists and visitors on some weekday mornings. Good programming. If nothing else comes of our talk tonight, I hope you'll join our talks and tours in the summer. They're very good. We get some really awesome speakers. Truly, we do. So that's what we do. That's what we want to preserve the building, and then move that building into a secure structure. Begin to plan more for taking this into the next generations. That's why I use the word golden years. Many of us are going to be moving on to a new board, a big board in the sky, I guess I should say. So we have to date, we have a lot of community support. This is one of our really big assets to bring to you tonight. We have raised our volunteers, our president, Ken, others. We've raised $31,000 in the community to date. That's in the last 6 months. including Community Foundation. Manistee Community Foundation gave us $7,000. That's awesome. We've had members of the business community, such as Blarney Castle gave $5,000, and many others gave chunks. Many people donated $1,000 or less. Up to 31 now. So that's a big accomplishment. If you looked at our current balance in operations, if you looked at savings and checking, you'd find we just about reached 20K. So in our donation-based income, we can't afford a new roof, which is basically going to look somewhere like around 40,000, 45,000, depending on what gets added. If the city does sponsor us, there will be requirements that SHPO has that get added into the grant that they pay for. This year, just to talk about SHPO briefly, in this program, we're in the rehab category. They are accepting applications this year from not-for-profits only in certified local governments. Manistee qualifies. And we cannot submit this without your sponsorship. So I got the cart a little bit on the other side of the horse that it should have been, because I've been very, very busy writing. So we basically have a grant narrative that's pretty much, it's not final until our city partners, if we get some, would review, but it's pretty much written, the narrative part, except for the city part. And what else can I say? So that's an asset. The narrative was sent to SHPO. They said, you have to talk to the city. We are now doing that. I'm a little late in that, and I apologize for that. This is due February, the full grant is due February 2. And that, I kind of take that on my shoulders. I should have had this sooner. I was busy too much on the writing, but that piece is in the bucket. Project must be sponsored by City of Lansing, or we're dead in the water.
Manistee.
Manistee, City of Manistee. You can tell I was a state worker for many years. I keep making that mistake. I'm sorry. Very sorry. The purpose of this grant money program, as I understand it from SHPO, is they're trying to trickle out money within CLGs, within cities that qualify, to smaller entities, and that emphasize some of their goals, which include, they jive with the things we do, children, cultural tourism, year-round programming, things like that. So we do well there. And smaller amounts of grant money for, I guess, smaller agencies, so we qualify there. Tell you some of the things that we would ask for. One is we would need a resolution from the city council acknowledging this, and the resolution would need to reference a memo of understanding that they provide. Maybe that's familiar to you. And that memo shows the responsibilities of each party, who does what. Those have been provided to Bill Gamble on an informal basis, and that would all be talked about if the council said that this was something you were interested in pursuing. This program year, the city does not need to own the building. That's new, and you don't, of course. We don't need a dollar match with this particular grant, so we can also get loans if we need to. And it's a reimbursement model. So I think it's very important for you to know that Old Carrick Museum pays all the costs up front. So we're busting tail here to get all of that money in a pot. We pay the costs up front. The city does not pay. Basically, the city is our sponsor and serves, and I don't know the best word to use, but in a fiduciary capacity, basically. It's the administrative component that we would ask for you. And ultimately, we'd get the reimbursement money from the city up to the amount SHPO said they would give us, and then the rest is what we've spent. So that works well. Let me continue with just a few more points that might be helpful. I mentioned strong community support. We have, this is what I hope is convincing or helpful. It's one clear capital improvement objective. It's time limited. We're getting a new roof and a new steeple covering, whatever that's going to be. SHPO may have words about how, if you look at the 1900 era picture, they may have directions for us about how to preserve that sensitively for the future, and we're all about it. We're all about it. But still, that's going to cost. So that would be something that we'd work on. So I can't give a final figure, but I do say it ultimately will be a fairly time-limited project with one objective. And of course, the complexities of grant writing and rule following are not something that I'm trying to minimize, but at least it's not, a 3-year project. So that's cool. I don't think there'll be a lot of invoicing. That's my thought as, a non-accountant. I don't think there'll be a lot of that. The grant guidelines in this particular rehab program allow for the city to add the hourly salary rates and benefits of whichever staff might assist us. So that gets added to the grant. There might be other things added if, for example, SHPO and City of Manistee wanted a structural assessment that surpasses the one we now have, which says the building's strong, but it doesn't meet, it is sound, but it doesn't probably meet SHPO's requirements. We would add that money. So as I said when I met with Mr. Gamble and Mr. Bradford, I think that, well, I know that I will and the volunteers will do everything we can to make sure this works smoothly if you sponsor us. We will minimize whatever work we can. I can help work with that with whomever is staffing it, so that a lot of the narrative, it would be reviewed here, but we would do a lot of the upfront work and the whatever reporting mechanisms that I could do as the project director on the Old Kirk side, I would do. And you just need to trust me. I will do that. I will follow through. It'll happen. SHPO may choose a sign. They may choose our project if we were successful in being sponsored. They may choose our project for a sign that sort of glorifies their program, and we would include City of Manistee in that. In any of our PR, in public information, we will talk about the partnership we have with City of Lansing, City of, damn, that was 25 years you just heard. City of Manistee. So I think there's no guarantee that we'll get this. We don't have any strings attached to SHPO, as you know. So we're here. I think we're competitive. I think we have a very good chance of getting this money. And so bottom line is, we ask you if you will consider this and support us by sponsoring this project. That's pretty much it. I want to introduce our president, Ken, but if you have questions for me, I'm happy to take any that you have, or just introduce you to Ken.
Well, I can tell you, I've been to almost all their presentations they've had during the summers, and they have some really good artists come in from New York and all over the place, and they put on some good shows.
Thank you.
So it's really, I would recommend sponsoring this.
Well, I'm thrilled to hear it. May I come and
Yes.
pick those up?
Yes.
If you want copies of anything, feel free to ask. We'll give you anything you want, in paper, pictures, or any other medium. Thank you very much. I'll sit down if there's no further questions. And just may I please introduce our president, Ken.
Well, he didn't leave much for me to say, I guess. I'm Ken Cooper, and I know people here. I've been here a long time. The Old Kirk, he gave a little bit of the history. And all I can say is that when they decided it was going to be a museum in 1970 or 72, around in that area, they were fairly active for a while. And I think what they did was they brought busloads of Danish Lutherans, and they had a tour once a year. In 2010, my wife and I went to, maybe, I'm getting ahead of myself, in 1990, Ruth was vice president of the Manistee County Historical Museum. And we went to an open house at the Old Kirk, and it was one of those deals where if for $10 you became a member, and then every December they send you an envelope and you stick your $10 in it. I guess you don't notice in 2010 came around and no envelope came from the Old Kirk. You don't notice. 2017 came along, and I got a letter that said we're either going to tear it down or sell it. Doug Jensen was president. He was 91 years old, and the average age on the board was about 85. And they said, unless we can do something. And I thought they were having a general membership meeting, And we went, and there were 5 board members and my wife and I. And they said, we're gonna tear it down, or we're going to try to sell it. And of course, as a 501(c), you know, you gotta untangle all that to sell it, unless we can get somebody new to take over. And that's exactly what they did, all 5 of them. We formed a new board in August, that was in July, we put together a new board. Some of you that have been around long enough remember the pictures of me painting the church. That's how I started, because I wanted to draw attention to the church. At that time, the church had a dirt basement floor. And I set a goal that first year of raising $5,000 to join the community foundation was my first goal. Because if we were going to be part of Manistee, we were going to be part of Manistee, and we couldn't expect Manistee to be part of us if we didn't invest in the community. Within 2 years' time, we had put heating and cooling. We'd built an exhibition hall on the lower floor. We'd rebuilt the front doors. We acquired the Matson lumbering dioramas, which if you haven't seen them, you need to come and see them. That's the basis of our lumbering program we do for the 3rd graders. Packaging Corporation helped us. We have museum quality cases built. And we were doing fine. My question I asked them when they started out was, they had a roof that didn't leak and $20,000. And the way I figured it, if you had the oldest pair of Nike tennis shoes in the United States, you'd buy a plastic box and you'd charge people to come in and see it. We had the oldest Danish Lutheran church in America on the National Register. It's a year older than the city of Manistee. You know, and so, you know, we were going to try to do what we could. And then I realized that the important thing about that place wasn't that it was the oldest Danish Lutheran church in America. The thing that was important about our place is that you can go to the Ramsdale Theater and you can go to the Congregational Church and the Episcopal Church and Guardian Angels Church, and you can sit in these magnificent edifices that guys like Buckley and Douglas and Sands that made $1 bazillion in Manistee cutting down all the trees built. In 1930, you could stand at the M55 bridge and you could almost see the Cadillac. People forget that. There wasn't a tree standing. That's what Manistee was. And that's what the CCC did. And that's what they did out in Wellston at Chittenden when they raised all the ceilings. Well, you see, those buildings are magnificent. The Tiffany windows are beautiful. There's one public place, one public room that you can go to and sit in original seat that the guys who worked in the shingle factories and cut down the trees worked in. And that's the Old Kirk Museum. There were others, and there still are some. The Swedish Evangelical Lutheran Church building a chiropractor has now. It's on the corner of 4th Street and the highway, Cypress. But of course, that building was built 20 years after our building was built. Our building was built, the big cornerstone laying period in Manistee for churches was 1888. If Mark's still in the room, he'll agree with me. We had the Guardian Angels, the Congregational Church, and the Episcopal Church cornerstones were all laid within a year of each other. Our church had sat there for 20 years. It survived the fire. Now, I'll leave you with one thought. He talked about some of our programming, the speaker series, bringing in the elementary kids. The Tiny Towns and Trains, we've decided to do that at Christmas time to get more people. The other thing that's important about our church, about the building, is I see the building as a funnel. As a funnel. Our goals are simple. Preserve a historic building and contribute to the cultural life of Manistee. That's it. We don't have any other goals. But we need a roof to do that. If we don't have the building, we don't have the funnel. And we have managed to, we're like the poor guy that goes to get a car and he pays off his credit cards every month and doesn't have any bills. I mean, we really are. You know, somebody said, what's your credit rating? Well, we paid for everything as we go. And we also, one thing you need to realize about the Old Kirk, we charge for absolutely nothing that happens at the Old Kirk Museum. The only thing you will pay for at the Old Kirk Museum is if you want to be married there. And you'll pay $350. That's all. And we do it because we got air conditioning in. Some of our volunteers got to go clean the place an extra time. So that's the only thing you pay for. All these things you've heard about, the program for the kids, We paid for the buses to come down. Matter of fact, we're gonna apply for, now that Howard has taken us into the world of grant writing, we've decided that we might just as well approach the foundation. I read in the paper about, the Ramsdale Theater got $6,000 for this camp, and I'm sitting there thinking, well, last year we took $500 out of our operating money to pay for the school to bring the buses down for the third graders. Maybe we ought to apply for a grant for that. And we'd also like to expand that to bring in the kids from the county. Gary Scory does that program. A lot of you know Gary's a Manistee guy. He was a former director of the museum down in Midland. And he's back in Manistee and he works with us. We've had 3 projects with West Shore Community College. We partnered with Howard, touched on some of that. But we need this roof. And to get this grant, the grant, by the way, also opens up doors down the road for us. And I know you people are gonna, if Ed was here, he could fill you in more on the details of exactly what's required of you. Howard touched on it, but it's not much. And I think that Bill and Ed had a meeting with you before and outlined that. But anyway, I just want to tell you a little bit about the Old Kirk, and I think we're a valuable member of the Manistee community, and we believe in cultural tourism. We got a lot of recreational tourism, but boy, Manistee's a rich cultural place. The oldest continually operating firehouse in the world. The oldest Danish Lutheran church in the world. A congregational church that was designed by William LeBaron Jenney, who designed the first skyscraper in America. A Ramsdale Theater that was designed by Sloan S. Beeman, who designed Pullman, Illinois, and the Fine Arts Building in Chicago. You come out of the front door of the Art Institute of Chicago and you look kitty corner, and what do you see? You see the Fine Arts Building, which was originally the Studebaker headquarters. He designed the Art Gallery in Muskegon, Michigan. Manistee's got a lot to offer. And you're going to have a wonderful thing when you get somebody to put a microbrewery in the Waterworks building. But that's a perfect thing for it. Anyway, thanks so much. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Okay. Mr. Gamble.
I'll add that, meeting with the Old Kirk, we were looking at, the same SHPO grant. The city city owns the Ramsdale Theater, but they had received a planning grant to do a master plan at the Ramsdale. So Ed is very familiar with this grant. This is a construction grant as opposed to a planning grant. We were looking at this for the waterworks, and when they did approach me in December, I was kind of apprehensive, thinking we wanted to do the waterworks. Right before then, we were working with the land bank to fix up the waterworks. I think with Howard working on the grant, I think they're in a better place to receive funding at this point. The waterworks, we do have a roof on the building, which is necessary, and I think it's in a good spot. We could work this year to get the hopefully we'll get the state land bank grant, but we can work on getting that on the state registry for historic places. We can set it up to be in a better place next year, and who knows, maybe Howard would want to help us with this in the future, but
We're committed to historical buildings.
So I think we all want to see the highest and best use over at the waterworks, and so I think I want to see this funding come to Manistee and help preserve history. So I think after having a meeting with Howard and Ken, I think we know they're committed partners. It is an administrative burden. We are going to have to run the bidding process, things like that. The timing is pretty good. I mean, we'll have to have this on the next agenda for it to be done in time for the second. The actual award, I think, is in August or so. So we have a lot of things right now we're working on, but I think this kind of moves it out a little bit so that we can space it out. And thank you.
Anybody else? Yeah. Ms. Pratt.
I just had 2 questions. The lift that's parked in the Sands Park parking lot, do we know what's going on with that? I've had a couple of residents reach out, and I told them I had no idea. So I told them their best bet would be to call City Hall.
That lift is owned by the city. We had staged it on this side of the river for 2 reasons. One, if we needed it to assist us with lighting the community Christmas tree, which we came up with a different solution for that. But right now we're also in our forestry work before the snowfall fell today. So we've been cutting a lot of trees, doing a lot of trimming, and oftentimes we get to a point where we can't reach it with our bucket truck, and we'll use that. So once we conclude that we don't need it on this side, then we'll bring it back to Public Works.
One of the residents' concern was where it was parked. Do you think somebody might be able to move it just over like a space or two? Because it's like impeding the handicap spot there.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And I don't know, it looked like maybe the cones got moved or something, so I don't know if it was kids versus, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it can be adjusted.
But they were like, I don't know that I can move the cone without getting in trouble. And I was like, well, call the city, because I'm not
Sure.
sure what the protocol was on that. The other question I had, so we received an email in regards to the ad hoc committee that we had approved at the last city council meeting about a letter. I'm not aware of that. I guess I'm wondering if we can get a copy of the letter that was sent, but I guess my question is there gonna be an informational meeting? Because I did receive several phone calls. I think there's a lot of miscommunication that's going on with that. And I just think maybe if there's more information that's provided or an informational meeting, it might stop some of the rumors before people get upset. And I really would just hate to see volunteers have hurt feelings and walk away from future projects over miscommunication. So.
Okay, Mr. Borowski.
Today I was at the container, plastic container, and there's all kinds of styrofoam in there. I think we've asked the people before, don't stick the styrofoam, I mean, there's big sheets of it. That's ridiculous. You know, I'll go down there and sit there and chase the people out with that stuff if I have to. And then it blows up to my house when they start emptying everything out. So, I mean, just come on, people, start using your brains. Jack, can I ask you one question? Was your grandpa Jack from Fifth Avenue?
Was.
He was one of our police officers for years until he died.
Yes.
And I knew him, so I go way back.
Thank you for sharing.
So, thank you.
Yeah, I've been getting asked about what's next after the demolition of the sites for the blight. Do we have an update on?
I know we had, or there was a possibility of building something there. It was going to be the land bank that would do it. So I could ask them to come back, and I'm happy to see it down. I know.
Yeah,
it
good
was
job.
But yeah, what's next? Yeah, is the question. Yep. So it's not a very big lot is one of the issues, and then I think there's some Morton wells underneath the neighboring lot. I think I don't know if that lot next to it's buildable is one of the issues, but we can talk to Rachel, see what the plans are. I'm sure they're looking at doing something there.
Okay.
Did the old railroad run used to run through there too?
Yeah.
That's probably why, huh?
Ms. Lumber.
I'm all good.
Okay, we are adjourned.